So I want to welcome everyone to Mr. Anxiety Free's channel, specifically my recovery mindset community. And today we'll have something special. We'll have an interview with the beautiful Isabelle, who's going to share with us her story of anxiety recovery and everything in between. Um, I think it will be extremely inspiring, but I also hope that it will also be highly practical. So you'll take some of the pieces and actually apply them on your own journey to kind of make your own journey a bit more smooth. So, Isabel, we're not going to go into, background. We already spoke with her before that. And I also have a list of questions with me here. So I make sure that I ask all the questions that I wanted. So let's start from the moment you started having issue with anxiety and how bad did it really get?
Yeah, so I had my first panic attack when I was 16. I remember I was on my way to school in a train and I thought I was not able to breathe anymore. I kind of like had no way to escape, so I had to sit through it and it went away. And I was like, okay, this was terrifying, but I just continued on living. And then I had another panic attack at school. And that was the first time I was like, oh, I think there's something wrong with me. So I straight away rushed to my doctor. My doctor said I was fine, I was healthy. He did not tell me that I had a panic attack or anxiety. And I was like, I don't feel fine, but okay. I also went to the ER for a few times and they also told me, yeah, you're healthy, you're fine. They never told me it could have been a panic attack. And for me, first, my biggest trigger was kind of like school because I had my first panic attack on my way to school. Um, in school, like it was somehow connected with school. And when I had to change from school to an apprenticeship, because in Switzerland, a lot of people first do an apprenticeship before they go back to school to study.
Mhm.
My panic attacks kind of like magically disappeared. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm cured. Cool. But after 2 years, I had another panic attack. And I was like, what? Why is it back? And that was when I really felt like, okay, now I have to do something. And first, I was never brave enough to tell anyone because there was kind of like a lot of stigma back then around mental health. Like nobody talked about mental health, like if you had a mental health problem, you were kind of like the crazy one. So I kind of like dealt with it for a few years on my own, not telling anyone, not seeing a psychiatrist, just carrying Xanax around everywhere. And when I had to go back to school after my apprenticeship, it really got worse, intense, because school was the biggest trigger for me. I had panic attacks, like intrusive thoughts, DPDR every day. It was like terrifying. Um, I don't really know how I managed to go to school every day because I did not know how to handle anxiety. I had no idea how to cure it. But I kind of like pushed through, went to school every day until one day I get to the point where I was like, I cannot take this anymore.
Mhm.
So I told my parents, I started to see a psychiatrist, started to take medication, and it kind of like got a bit better. The panic attacks kind of like got better. I did not have a lot of panic attacks, but my psychiatrist never told me how to handle anxiety properly, how to heal.
Mhm.
She only talked to me about my past, about my life in general. And when I told her, hey, what shall I do when I have a panic attack? She just told me, yeah, take this medication, take that, some
Mhm.
additional medications, some like biological medications. She gave me a bunch of drugs. And yeah, after 2 years, I had another big panic attack back again. And that was like the point where I was like, oh my God, I gotta find a cure for this.
Mhm.
And I kind of like Googled a lot and also looked it up on Instagram. I don't know why. And then I kind of like found you. And that was the first time I found someone who knew how to heal from anxiety, how to heal an anxiety disorder. And I was like skeptical, but I kind of like trusted you. And that's when I started to get better.
Yeah, so basically, there are different schools of of psychology, and the school that you have tried is basically it has to do with psychotherapy. It isn't practical, but for not necessarily for anxiety disorder um, or anxiety related disorders. The problem with psychotherapy and anxiety related disorders is that you need something practical and you need it now, and CBT has to offer that better than any other schools of psychology. So going through the past when you have to deal with the present is really challenging. So when you start talking about your childhood, your past memories, and you're laying there or sitting there and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? I need help now. Like that's the crazy
Yes.
part. So that's why
Hmm.
CBT and like all the stuff that I also talk about and the stuff that helped me to basically recover was and still is like based on CBT exposure and acceptance. Um, Amazing. So tell me a bit about the stuff that you have tried to feel better that you later learned that has nothing to do with recovery, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I tried a bunch of things. I tried meditation first. I tried like a lot of supplements, like, I don't know, everything that kind of like should calm you down, like teas and stuff. Then I tried diets. I tried to cut out sugar. I cut out caffeine. I cut out nicotine, like everything. Also, breathing techniques, a lot of breathing techniques, they did not really help me. Yeah. I kind of like looked a lot of things up and saw like acupuncture, hypnosis, and I wanted to try everything, but it was kind of like expensive. So yeah, I did not
Mhm.
try it, but I know it would not help. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with those things is that just by themselves, they're fine. Like, especially meditation is really great because it helps you to kind of detach from the thought process and see it from the side, right? Like, how the thoughts come to be and how you react to them. But when you think that this is the thing that will cure me, that's when you're mistaken, because what cures anxiety and especially panic attacks, right, is you just going out, you experiencing it, and you seeing how the anxiety cycle and the process works entirely. But when you invest yourself in one thing like hypnosis or meditation or supplements, and you think, okay, this is the thing I have to, double
Mm-hmm.
down, triple down on that, and basically this will cure me of everything, that's where a lot of people mess up. And me too,
Yes.
like I tried a lot of things, took me nowhere. So I had to just, you know, so those are basically the easy ways out, right? In other
Yes.
words.
Yeah.
And you just have to try them all to realize that, okay,
Yeah.
it's actually not working. I have to do the hard work. And
Right.
yeah, that's where the recovery starts.
Yes.
So besides, you said that you came across my Instagram or website. What else gave you like hope that there is recovery and you can actually recover it? Like, have you um, maybe read a recovery story or something that like showed you that you can actually end this?
Yeah, I also read a book, but it was after I found you. It's called At Least Alive, I guess, from
Mhm.
Paul somewhat. I don't know how he's called. Um, yeah, he also recovered on its own from anxiety after struggling for 10 years. And that kind of like gave me a lot of hope. And I have to say, before I found you, I did not really have hope, or I did not really find people that have recovered, to be honest. I Googled a lot and did not find anyone who has recovered. So it was really hopeless, but I still hope to find someone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is extremely amazing because Isabelle actually now has her own Instagram page. So she's another voice now who is talking about recovery, who's spreading hope instead of perpetuating the
Yes.
cycle of desperation, which unfortunately most of the social media and people like in the social media sphere basically they talk about hopelessness, that anxiety is horrible, this and that, and
Yes.
only a few people talk about solution, right? Everyone is focusing
Yes.
on the problem, but no one is talking about the solution. So I really applaud you on that decision.
Hmm.
Not only you
Thank you.
have managed to face your anxiety, and you're still facing the anxiety, but you have managed to just go out of your way, but you're inspiring others. And I will also leave your a link to your Instagram down below so everyone can
Thank
follow
you.
it, and everyone should follow it, by the way, too. So tell me about the steps that you have taken to, once you learn that those things that you have tried, like hypnosis, like breathing, whatever, they didn't work. What steps did you take that helped you effectively
Mm,
work on recovery?
I think um, the the first step is like facing your fears,
Hmm.
like not running away from your fears, not trying to avoid the fear, not trying to fight it, push it away, just sit with it. As hard as it sounds and it as uncomfortable as it is, that's the best way to learn that there's nothing to fear. It's hard, it's a lot of work, and I think it's also a lot of like trial and error. You have to try it a lot of times because you think you're accepting the anxiety and you're not fighting it. But for me, as I started, I still fought it a lot, and I still tried to escape from the uncomfortable feelings. So like facing the fears is like, for me it was the first step to like get better.
Hmm. Awesome. So facing, how did you like, how did it work? Did you do it consistently? Um, or how often? Basically, like, tell me a little bit about facing, because that is the main problem for a lot of people when they hear that, okay, I need to face my fears. They don't really know exactly how to do that. Can you elaborate on a bit, like how did you do it? So specifically for panic attacks, let's say, right? How often did you do it, and how exactly, like, you managed to go through the process of facing your fears?
Okay. So I think for me, my recovery process was kind of like, or is still a bit messy.
Hmm.
I tried to face my fears like every day on a daily basis because I wanted to get better. And I think at first I kind of like also did it just because I wanted to get better. I was like, I want to face my fears as much as possible because I want to get out as quick as possible. And that's kind of like not good. It's not good to think like that. But for example, when I was scared to drive on the freeway, I went on the freeway, drove there, and just let the panic be, let the panic go over me. And before I started facing my fears, I would have never stayed on the freeway if I had an anxiety or panic attack. I would think like, no, this is dangerous. I have to get off. Like the next exit, I have to get off the freeway. But yeah, I just tried to stay there for as long as I could. I was like, if you cannot take it no more, you can still go off, because that kind of like took a bit of the pressure away from me. But I tried to stay as long as possible until I had to get off because I had to go somewhere. Um, yeah, I just kind of like sat through it. And that kind of like showed me, okay, there's actually nothing to fear because you can do it.
Absolutely. And that's exactly the case, because a lot of people um, escape the situation at the peak. And when you escape the
Yes.
situation at the peak, that's when you basically leave anxiety, give anxiety a lot of power, because you leave that doubt that something could have actually gone wrong. But what you said is exactly the case. When you stay with anxiety and you ride the wave and
Mhm.
you stay at the plateau for some period of time, you actually tell your brain that, okay, I rode that wave, right? And I
Mhm.
have seen that nothing actually happens after that. So your brain gets the signal that, okay, once I go through that, nothing actually happens after that, because that's the fear associated with specifically panic attacks, is that, okay, something could have happened there, but I escaped that
Yeah.
situation, and that's why it didn't happen. So the more
Yes.
you do that, right, the more consistent you are at exposing yourself to those situations, the more you get, the more signals you send to your brain that nothing is going to happen. and that's how you basically recover from
Mm-hmm.
panic attacks. So what do you think you still need to work on? So now that you have said you're still in the process, but you're missing
Mm-hmm.
something, what do you think you still need to do to fully recover, basically?
Um, I think for me, setbacks are still like a thing because when you're recovering, you feel better for some time, but then you get hit with a setback. And I always get kind of like frustrated when I have a setback because it's kind of like when you feel better, you start to feel better. You kind of like, it's weird. You kind of like forget how really high anxiety and panic attacks feel like. And then you get hit with a setback and you're like, oh my God, okay, it is pretty uncomfortable. So I have to push through those setbacks
Hmm.
because sometimes I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, still like when I have a setback with a panic attack, for example, I'm like, oh my God, why is this happening again? Even with like panic attacks, I should have been better by now. And I think that's something I still need to work on because it's like normal to have setbacks and it's normal that anxiety could return. And even when you're recovered, it's normal that sometimes you may have a panic attack or may have some anxiety. So I think that's something I still need to work on, to be like, I don't care if it ever comes back. I really don't care. And I
Yes.
have to say also, like,
Yeah.
traveling like far away
Hmm.
um is like still a thing for me because of like the coronavirus, the pandemic. I'm not able to like travel and face those fears at the
Hmm.
moment. So that's something that still kind of like triggers my anxiety a bit. Like sitting in a plane for like maybe 10 hours or something like that would be still like something that I would need to face.
Yeah. I mean, the process is basically the same. It doesn't matter if you're driving your car or you're sitting in a plane, right?
Yes.
It's pretty much the same. The panic is the same. Of course, anxiety wants you to believe otherwise. It wants you to
Yes.
believe that okay, plane is
Yes.
actually you can't escape from there
Yes.
unless you jump with a parachute or something. But setbacks, yes, indeed, it's really frustrating, especially when you have
Mm-hmm.
a week or 2 weeks or even a month of like calm. You live your life the way you want to live it, and then
Mm-hmm.
boom, kind of anxiety comes back, and you're like, what the hell, right? But
Yeah.
that's the thing because setbacks, you need to basically view them as a learning opportunity. You need to see them as guides that will show you that okay, you need to still work on this. So they are really good ways to get better in terms of recovery. Not only recovery, but also psychologically. You become stronger psychologically
Mm-hmm.
because you see how you have been feeling anxiety all along that led you to come to that
Mm-hmm.
setback as well. But yes, that's a really good point that setbacks indeed they make a lot of people frustrated, and when you get trapped in the setback, you actually start uh, you know fueling anxiety even more, and that could lead back
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, and addressing them is really important. Um, so you're still going through recovery, right? But looking back, do you think that this anxiety has made you a stronger person than you were before you had that?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Mm,
Um, I would say not only the anxiety itself, more like the recovery process,
hmm.
because you have to accept something that you don't want to accept, that you don't want to have. And it's kind of like it changes your life in a way that you kind of like, you get so much stronger at accepting things that you can change, you know?
Hmm.
You kind of like get more at peace with like a lot of stressful situations. Like, for example, I don't know, talking in front of people, like talking in public or like speaking in public. It's like way easier for me now because I kind of like learned to be calm in a situation where I don't feel calm at all, you know, like during a
Hmm.
panic attack, trying to be as calm as possible. That kind of like taught me to be calmer in general. It's kind of like weird. Even though I still have anxiety and I still have my setbacks, I feel like calmer in a way.
It kind of taught you how to work with your feelings and emotions, basically. In other
Yes.
words, yes, and
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
the beauty uh, of working on recovery, is that you
Mhm.
actually become a lot stronger emotionally, which is something that you learn afterwards, that you have been poor emotionally before. You were just,
Yes.
you just took everything for granted. And now that you
Yeah.
have gone through the process, you know how the brain works. You know that, okay, you can, manipulate certain things differently.
Hmm.
Any other ways that you have seen your life or your personality improve after you have gone through anxiety, or
I'm
is it just
sorry. What?
basic? Any other ways you have seen your personality improve after you've gone through?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of like improved a lot. Like, I also have to say, you kind of like really learn how strong you really are, because you have to face those uncomfortable feelings,
Hmm.
and you have to face all those what if thoughts, like the situations you think like you're gonna die. You just have to be like, okay, whatever, if it happens it happens, or what if I lose control, whatever, if it happens, so be it. And you kind of like, you would have never um been able to learn that if you would not have anxiety, because no one ever would want to face those uncomfortable feelings, but you're kind of like you're forced to get better in a way.
So you kind of learn the healthy dose of not giving a damn about certain things in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Last question. If you had to go back to your hopelessly anxious self, what would you say? What advice, what kind of support would you give to her?
Ooh. Yeah, I think, of course, saying, yeah, it'll get better, and this will teach you a lesson, and this will make you better. And there's actually a purpose, um that you have to go through all this discomfort.
What about in terms of practical advice? Like, what type of practical advice would you give her?
Practical advice, yeah, of course, face your fears. Go out
Mm.
there. Just like, give a damn and do it. Trust yourself.
And that is addressed to everyone who's listening this now. So I want to thank you, Isabelle, for your time and for your
Thank
story,
you.
for your amazing story, for your brave story. It's not over yet, but
Yeah.
the persistence, the courage, the will that you have for recovery, there's just no doubt that you'll get there, but you're already there. But the fact that you face the panic, the fact that you are in the process, and you're just dealing with the setbacks, which is towards the end of the process. But also the fact that you are sharing your story, I think, is just amazing, and
Thank
that's
you.
why I wanted to give you this platform to kind of share, to inspire others, to make them see that yes, you can work on recovery and you can achieve that, and you can regain your freedom. You just have to do, and basically just do. So,
Thank you
uh,
so much.
do you want to share your Instagram or other social accounts that you want everyone to follow?
Yeah, it's just like my Instagram for anxiety recovery, like the content with anxiety recovery based is like more dot than dot anxiety.
Perfect. I'll have it in the description or wherever, maybe here, wherever. Make sure to follow, and
Thank you.
thank you for your time. Enjoy your day and stay safe,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.